各位觀眾，歡迎收睇周一長談。嗱，市選咧就好快嚟到啦。咁我哋相信咧，各位觀眾都好關心啦，各個候選人無論係市長啦、市議員啦，甚至教育局、公園局等等，佢哋各個候選人嘅個人抱負啦、理念啦，同埋每一個嘅對每一個嘅政策嘅抱負，佢哋嘅觀點係點樣㗎？咁我哋今日咧就邀請到其中一位候選人咧上嚟同我哋傾下偈㗎。咁我哋今日咧就邀請到咧代表無黨派協會出選溫哥華市長嘅華裔候選人沈觀健先生 Ken Sim 接受我哋嘅訪問㗎。Ken, welcome to Monday Forum.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Okay, first talk about your personal vision. I know we heard a lot about like why you want to run for mayor, why you want to do something for Vancouver, but we are interested to know like what moment really triggered you to say, hey, I have to run for the mayor position to have to do something for Vancouver.
You know, I think I got the bug maybe 2 years ago, or I was getting a little frustrated with what was going on in our city. But it didn't happen till April of this year. And, you know, people kept coming to me and they kept asking me, you know, Ken, are you going to run for mayor? Should you run for mayor? And I actually said no a bunch of times. No, that's the last thing I want to do. But then I changed my mind and decided to run.
But what triggered you to decide to run from no to yes? Any special moment?
Yes. Okay. So I was asked a few times, so I decided, okay, you know what? I'm actually going to think about this long and hard. And so I called up a bunch of people I know in the city and in this province, you know, former politicians, people that I really respect, nation builders. And after I had done all my due diligence, I actually said no. And then I went on my way and I spoke to our CEO at Nurse Next Door, and she mentioned, you know, Ken, you're gonna regret this. And then I spoke to someone that helps me at physio. You know, he helps me with my back, and I told him the wild story of what had happened and how I almost decided to run for mayor. And he looked at me and he said, Ken, you're going to regret this. And so I literally said, okay, we're doing this. And that's how I got into this race.
So the two important persons make you to run.
Two very important people.
I see. Okay, so the next thing is, since you say you feel something not so satisfied about what happened now in Vancouver. So can you tell me, once you become a mayor, what's the first thing you say, I have to do now? Otherwise, I have to do it now, otherwise it will be a big problem.
Well, I don't know if it's, look, we have a lot of challenges facing our city, and we have to address a lot of them head on. But I think the first thing I'm going to do when I get to the city is, I don't know if you see where the mayor sits, but the mayor actually sits higher than everyone else. I'm going to chop the legs off the desk, and we're going to put everyone at the same level, because that's just how I operate. Everyone's at the same level.
That's great. Okay, so since you have mentioned that, like, okay, you see there are a lot of issues, a lot of problems you want to fix in Vancouver. So can you tell us what's the biggest problem you think Vision Vancouver has done in the past 10 years? And how are you going to fix that?
Well, you know, I don't want to speak ill of anyone. You know, I think, you know, I'm a resident of Vancouver, and I feel the same way as the over 6,400 people I've spoken to. The vast majority of us believe and we really feel that no one's been listening. There hasn't been a real consultation process, and a lot of things have happened in our city. It feels like it's been based on ideology, and it didn't matter what residents of Vancouver thought, it was going to happen anyways, and we're going to change that. So we're actually talking to residents. The residents have actually helped us build part of our platform. Some of the ideas that you're going to see in our platform actually came from residents of Vancouver.
Okay. So you talk about, you really emphasize on the consultation process, but any specific strategy you want to do the consultation, how you build your platform throughout all this consultation?
Well, we had a pretty good feel for what we wanted to do. The three main things that we're addressing are housing, with everyone else who's running for office. But we're going to be, the second part of our platform is supporting our local businesses. And the third part of our platform is actually listening and dealing with seniors issues. No one's even talking about seniors issues. And so when it came to the consultation process, people told us that they needed affordable housing now, not 3, 5, 7, 10 years from now. They needed it now. And that's actually why we are going to be promoting 2 secondary suites in houses all across the city. We can actually almost immediately provide a large amount of rental accommodation throughout the city without having to wait to build new buildings.
Okay, I see. So now next thing we talk about, since we know you are an entrepreneur, you have built 2 really successful business. So now we talk something about vision and strategy. So what's your vision of Vancouver should be, and how and what kind of strategy of the way you want to achieve that vision?
Yeah, the vision of our Vancouver is, my Vancouver, our Vancouver, it's pretty simple. I just want a Vancouver where people can afford to live, they can have great careers, and they can enjoy everything the city has to offer. It's really that simple. We do that, everything's great.
Okay, so in terms you talk about the affordability, and I know recently you have released the platform how to address the affordability issue in Vancouver. So probably we need to know, because right now why we say the housing is unaffordable, partially because the supply and demand, they don't match well.
Yep.
So highly likely it's about some shortage in certain market to certain housing. From your estimate, how many shortage of certain type of housing you think right now in Vancouver, say for example the subsidized housing, how many we need in the next few years, and how are you going to address that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't think anyone can actually give you a realistic answer, and so I'm not going to attempt to do so. I think there are 2 things we can do to deal with the affordability issue, though. Everyone's talking about home prices, and I'll talk about that in a second. No one is actually talking about incomes and supporting our businesses to promote higher incomes. If you look at San Francisco versus Vancouver, we have roughly the same real estate prices. Except for if you look at Vancouver, Vancouverites spend about 33% more of their income on housing. And that's because we don't make as much as people in San Francisco. So if we start to support our local businesses and business in general, and we promote our business community, guess what? Income should go up, and that will help us deal with the affordability issue. When it comes to housing, there are a few things we're going to do. Like I said earlier, we're going to promote those 2 secondary suites across the city. We are going to be working on the permitting process. So when you look at permitting and fees and delays, it will account for maybe 25 to 50% of the cost of a new house. And so if we can, and we will speed up permitting. So anything that's simple, we'll approve basically right away. And then for everything else, we'll start to work on the process to speed it up. We should have a serious impact on affordability. Now, everyone's going to talk about it in this election. Everyone's going to say, we're going to make things more efficient, right? And I bet you everyone else in the city will say the same thing. The idea is easy. Actually doing it is really difficult. That being said, I'm the only person who's running for office right now who's actually known around the world as a workflow expert. So business books and articles in business magazines have been written about myself and my company about how we run things really efficiently, and they're used in business books around the world. We actually have hospitals and health authorities that come to Vancouver to meet myself and our company to see what we're doing to bring it back to their hospitals. So I know workflow, I know efficiency, we can do this at City Hall. The third thing we're going to do is we're actually going to build purpose-based rental on city-owned land. And so we're going to work with the province, the federal government, not-for-profits, co-ops, and the private sector to build up to 30,000 housing units on city-owned land over the next decade.
So, okay, right now, as you mentioned, probably no one can really give a rough estimate how much housing is needed to resolve the affordability issue. Would that be really dangerous, say, we just throw out the land, build as much as housing possible? That may cause an oversupply it may flip to the other side. Would that be a danger? Do you have concern on that? Because right now, all the house owners, they don't want the housing price like crash like 30 or 50%.
Yeah.
Of course, everyone just want it stabilized so that everyone can gradually afford to pay for the housing. But if no one is able to estimate how much housing is needed in Vancouver market, then would that be a really risk and dangerous that we may have oversupply the housing and make the market even worse?
Yeah, at the end of the day, when you let the market determine what housing you have, it should be in balance. But once again, that's why we love our 2 secondary suites across the city, because we already have the houses built. We don't have to build any more houses, but we can add affordable housing. And so people can actually, when you have more units out there, people can come in. It should bring rents down, but also when you look at property values, bear in mind, the revenue goes to the property owner, and it could be a mortgage helper. And so you can make an argument that it will stabilize house prices. And so we like that. And then when going forward, I'm not a proponent of mass rezoning the entire city, very far from it. I think we actually have to come up with a community plan, and we consult all of our local neighborhoods to see how they want to densify their neighborhoods, and then we do that accordingly. And so you won't have this, mass building of condos all across the city. I'm not for it. I actually think it's quite reckless.
Okay, I see. Thank you for your time. 各位，而家我哋先休息一陣，稍後翻嚟咧，就同Ken Sim 一齊傾下佢其他嘅抱負同埋佢嘅理念嘅。